Boom. Well, I'll be honest with you. I was shooting for 11 a.m. on the dot. But being that as it may, and knowing full well that I operate in a world that swirls around chaos and unpredictability, sometimes that can be condoned, if not excused. This is me trying to make excuses for being 2 minutes late. You know, honestly, I need to change that in my life. If there's one thing I need in my life, it is an absolute 180-degree turn as far as time is concerned. Because I know time is precious for many of you, and most of you that show up on my page, you're sticklers for time, and you're sort of aware of the importance of being on time. And I appreciate that. Honestly, I do. Bo Allen, thank you so much for being the first one on here. Morning SML, morning to you, Bo. How's it going over there? Everything all right? Talk to me, tell me. Guys, Ruth Ngandu says, I'm listening, I'm glad. Please tell me in the comments below if this broadcast is clear. You know, the other day I was sort of scrolling through my newsfeed and I came across a very interesting fact. And I want to share this with you. And I know many of you feel this way the moment you learned about this. This is exactly the way I responded to this when it came to my knowledge. And it's this. Guys, do you know, and you better be sitting down for this, honestly, really, because if you're not prepared to hear this, it's going to knock you off your feet. It'll sweep you clean off your feet. And it's this. I recently learned that Sandra Bullock is 60 years old. How the hell did that happen? Sandra Bullock is 60 years old? What, Miss Congeniality is 60? What, the girl that played opposite Keanu Reeves in Speed is 60? What's going on with the time? And Sandra Bullock not too long ago was 45 years old. What, now she's 60? What's going? I mean, look, I've heard of Father Time. But this is ridiculous. Sandra Bullock, 60 years old. I might as well be 100. You know, I mean, when I first saw Sandra Bullock in Speed all those years ago, you know, this young, beautiful, dark-headed girl that had a very unique shaped nose. And well, all of a sudden now she's 60. It's like the other day I found out Halle Berry's 58. What the hell's going on? All right. I felt that I had it on my heart to share that with you. And if you feel that way, you know, about age, jump on here and sort of share with us what you think about how quickly time goes by. You know, the Word of God says life is like a vapor. I mean, literally a vapor. It's here one moment and the next it's gone. It's unbelievable. That's the reason we have to live every day as if it counts. Is that the way? No, we have to live every day as if it's our last. There you go. I got it right. I did. All right. Guys, I heard not too long ago that for those of you that are here on the Zambian side of things, as you know, Lumzi is going to go through a by-election very soon. And by-elections being what they are, very contentious, very politically charged. As you know, the member of parliament that used to represent Lumzi has recently been incarcerated. And so that seat, therefore, is vacant. And so people are jostling for that seat. And naturally, you know, tempers are high and things. The only thing I don't like about politics is the violent component of it. You know, some guy from Tonse Alliance has been arrested for stoning a car. What the hell are you doing stoning a car? Now, when you stone the car, and then what? See, this is the question you have to ask these drug-induced, inebriated youth who have nothing to do but cause ruckus, chaos, and confusion. under the banner of political loyalty. None of them are political loyalists. They're just young people taking advantage of the situation and wanting to make a name for no other reason apart from getting a few coins here and there. You know, it really saddens me. And so my admonition to the police, anyone, and it doesn't matter where they're from, I don't care who they are, whether it's Tonse, the ruling party, or whoever, anyone that's caught stoning anything, stoning a car, stoning a person, they should be arrested. Okay? They should be arrested. Thrown away. The key just tossed. Because you don't need that sort of riffraff in society. You don't. All righty. So we're going to wait and see how the score comes out in Lumzi. And of course, the people of Lumzi will decide. Okay? They will decide. They are the captains of their fate. Okay? And whatever they decide to sort of take to Parliament, we'll rally behind them. We'll sort of say, okay, that's your choice. This is your man. This is your man. And then Lumzi is going to say, yeah, I'm going to stick beside him. I'm going to stick beside him. This is what you're settling for. This is your man. Yeah, that's my man. And I'm going to stick beside him. That's what I'm going to do. All right. What are we talking about? You know, sometimes I talk so much that I literally lose track of what the heck I'm supposed to be talking about. Please tell me in the comments, why the heck am I here? Honestly, really, I lose track. I lose my train of thought. When I was younger, we used to say trend of thought. I've lost my trend of thought. No, it's you've lost your train of thought. Okay? And the reason for that, if you really want me to explain it, is if you imagine with me, if you will, a train, a locomotive. Okay? A locomotive, a train has several compartments in sequential order. So when you say you've lost your train of thought, it means you've lost your thought in sequential order. That's what it means. All right. We're talking about Miles. Many of you know, that's right, Stacy. Stacy Beamer. Stacy's American, but she has her finger on Zambian political activity. Yes, we're talking about Miles Sampa. Many of you know that Miles Sampa is the current member of parliament for Matero constituency, and he's been in politics for quite a while. He is the nephew to the late Michael Sata. He is the cousin to Mulenga Sata. And what had happened was he got into politics at a very young age. And the very first time I met Miles, I have to tell you this story. There was something that he had said in the press, and of course he was much younger then. You know, Miles Sampa is a very handsome looking guy, you know, and there was something he had said in the press that I liked. I forget what it was, honestly. And I phoned him to commend him for what he had said. It probably had something to do with the community or something, I don't know. And I called him up and I said, look, you know, this is a really great thing that you've said. And somehow we got to talking, and he said to me, look, why don't you come by the office and see if we can, you know, talk some more and see if we can brainstorm and come to a meeting of minds. And I said, yeah, sure, we can do that. So I went over to his office, and there was a young lady there. Her name is Ngolwa, who's one of the most brilliant women I've ever come across. Very sharp-witted young lady that, you know, she's very quick on her feet in terms of thought process. You know, she had a very good, clear idea of what the political terrain was in Zambia. She had a very unique business acumen, you know, and she spoke well, looked really good, very, very, very amiable lady. And she was there at the office, and I explained to her who I was, and she said, yeah, Miles is going to be here any moment. And so, you know, later on, him and I met, and he said to me, why don't you become my spokesperson? Now, remember, this was many years ago, okay? And I thought, and this was before I was really a, whatever you call it, a social media personality. This was before I was into Facebook. I was sort of doing my own thing, you know, and just laying low, you know, kind of slow motion, you know, just under the radar, not doing much, just doing my thing. And Miles says to me, why don't you become my spokesperson? Now, keep in mind, at this time, I had no idea who Miles Sampa was in terms of his character, in terms of the way he was. I didn't even know his family. I took him purely 100% at face value. Okay. What I saw of him is what I thought of him. I didn't know him. This was my very first time to have an actual conversation with him. And, you know, I said, spokesperson, why not? Well, what's so difficult about that? And so I began to be his spokesperson. So any statement that he made, he sort of ran it through me, and then I would publish it. Well, after about 3 months of spending time with him and watching him and listening to him speak, I learned very quickly the type of person he was. And I'm going to share with you the type of person Miles Sampa is. I'm going to give you 3 things I learned while working with him that short period of time. Of course, later on, I sort of stopped representing him, and I left that mainly because of these 3 things. There were many other reasons, but these 3 things I'm going to share with you, and this was my observation about Miles Sampa. And then before I give you those 3, let me also point out that when he had asked me to be on his lineup in his wedding, initially, when I did agree, and I know this is going to sound like an excuse, but the suit that I wanted was not ready. And I should have been prepared, you know. I'm such a scatterbrain that I just took it for granted that the tailor was going to do it, and he didn't do it. And last minute, I had to call Miles and say, Miles, I can't be on your lineup. I mean, already you've got like 30,000 people on the lineup. Okay, you've got so many people on there. Me not being on there is not going to make a big difference, you know. He says to me, he says, you're not getting away with this. He says, whether you like it or not, he says, I don't care if you show up wearing a sack. You're coming to my wedding and you're going to be on my lineup. And I said, look, Miles, the thing is, I don't have a thing to wear. I don't have anything decent to wear. He said, I don't care. That's your problem. You should have sorted that out. You can't tell me last minute that you're not going to show up at my wedding and you're not going to be on my lineup. By hook or crook, mwewa, you're going to be there. And reluctantly, I said, oh, fine, you know. And you guys saw the video. I wasn't appropriately dressed. The only reason I showed up was because he compelled me to do it. And there I was. I showed up in a black swine, for goodness sake. And then on top of that, while we were waiting outside of the venue, there was a lot of mud outside. And many of us got our shoes soiled. And we were frantically trying to clean our shoes because we were about to go into the venue and start the dancing. Not only was I inappropriately dressed, but my shoes were soiled. And I kept on thinking, oh, the moment they take a photograph of this, I am going to be the laughingstock of the entire town. That's exactly what happened. Everybody highlighted the fact that my shoes were soiled. They highlighted the fact that I showed up like I was going to some type of town meeting. It was a mess. So let me explain to you the 3 things that I learned about Miles Sampa. The first thing is that Miles's qualifications overshadow him. What I mean by that is Miles is a very educated guy. He's got degrees behind his name. He's held high-profile jobs, but his qualifications overshadow his personality. If you read the tale of the tape on paper, without meeting him in person, you would think that you're meeting somebody that would match what you're reading. But the moment you meet him, you realize very quickly that his qualifications overshadow him. His personality, his way of doing things, very haphazard. He's an idea a minute. Do you know what that means? Could somebody tell me in the comments below? Stacey B, tell my audience, what is an idea a minute? I mean, Miles Sampa is an idea a minute. What I mean by that is he has so many different, he would wake up and say, I'm starting a cab company today. And then all of a sudden, it just wouldn't work. The very next day, he'd say, I'm starting a solar charging public company where the public can come and charge their phones via solar, and I'm going to put them all over the city. And then that would work for a little bit, and then it wouldn't work. And then all of a sudden, it just wasn't there. And then he would wake up and say, I'm starting a new mobile toilet company. I'm going to put a mobile toilet in every corner of the CBD. I'm going to make sure that people that are pressed, people that need to use the bathroom in the immediate have somewhere to go. All of a sudden, you'd see a couple of toilet booths in the CBD, and then they're gone. Yeah, Stacey B says, too many ideas. Yeah, when you hear someone say he's an idea a minute, it means there's so many ideas, you're doing so much, but nothing sticks. You start it, and then it just doesn't work. You start it, and it just doesn't work. And I'm not talking about one idea. I'm talking about multiple ideas. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And so the very first thing I noticed about him was that he was an idea a minute. He had so many projects in his head, but he didn't have the commitment, the consistency to stick with one thing that would work the entire duration. It was start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Many things. And I couldn't keep track. I couldn't keep track of him. I think, what are you doing, man? Okay. Number one, an idea a minute. Number two, his cadence. His cadence bothered me. Do you guys know what a cadence is? His cadence, the cadence means the way you rhythmically speak. Each one of us have a different cadence. The way we speak, for example, Bakaunda. Bakaunda used to speak like this. Brothers and sisters, boys and girls, that was his cadence. Martin Luther King had a cadence. I have a dream that one day, his cadence. Miles's cadence was a bit odd. It was a bit strange because he always spoke as if he was out of breath. And I couldn't get that. I would listen to him speak, and it was almost as if he wanted to say something, and then he was out of breath. You know, for example, you remember he did that famous interview where he says they were dancing, singing, and then it was a ba. His cadence threw me off. I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. Every time he would speak, I'd think, what the hell is going on with Miles? What's the deal with this cadence? Now, for a political leader, I believe, of course, not everybody is an orator. And most certainly, Miles Sampa is not an orator. Okay? He's not a flashy, flamboyant orator. If you compare Miles Sampa to Robert Chavinga, Robert Chavinga does not have the qualifications, the academic qualifications that Miles Sampa has. But if you put Robert Chavinga in front of a crowd, he's electrifying. Robert Chavinga is electrifying when he's speaking to a crowd. Why? Because Chabinga is an orator. Sampa is not an orator. He's a mobilizer. He's a galvanizer. He knows how to galvanize, but he's not an orator. So his cadence, his rhythmic style of speaking as a politician bothered the hell out of me. I thought, what the heck, Miles? Huh? What are you saying, Miles? It didn't gel with me. Okay. That's number two. Number three, Miles was he was very easily swayed, very susceptible to opinion. And now, guys, listen, as a leader, it's very important to listen to people. You know, this is what they tell us. Okay, we are not leaders in terms of politics. We're leaders in our own spheres, you know, but being someone that has observed politicians for a very, very long time, practically all my life. I mean, my own late father was a politician. Yes, we understand that it's important for politicians to listen, but it is not good when a politician goes with every piece of advice he's given. Miles is like that. Miles could be speaking to someone at 10 o'clock, make a decision based upon that advice. By 11, the next person that speaks to him, he'll change his mind and make a decision based upon the person that told him at 11. By 15 hours, he'll change his mind based upon the advice that has been given to him at the person that gave it to him at 15 hours. He would listen to everybody and then do what everybody says. I saw that and I thought, well, that's not good. That's not good at all. So those three things stand out to me as a deficit. Really, if you really have to look at it, it's a deficit. I'm live. So, and then here recently, many of you know that Miles Sampa and I are not really great friends, you know. I mean, we were sort of friends a few years ago, but it started going pear-shaped when I've shared this story with you. There's one time, this was when he was mayor, and this highly offended me because I felt that he took advantage of my so-called friendship. I was working in my office one day. This was back when he was the mayor of Lusaka. I'm sitting in my office, right here, in fact, right here in this office. And I get a phone call from Miles, and he says, "Hey, I'm downstairs. Can I see you?" I said, "Yeah, sure." You know, I mean, when the mayor calls you, you go running. You know, you don't say to the mayor, "I'm busy. I got a memo to circulate." No, when the mayor of the city of Lusaka phones you, you go running. So immediately I went downstairs and I was wondering what it was about. And I said, "Hey, how's it going, man? What's up?" He says, "Look," he was standing with a lady from G. Rutherford billboards. You know, the guys that they plaster billboards everywhere. They have defaced the copper belt. G. Rutherford puts billboards every single space he can find. And it's wrong. And I blame the local authority for allowing G. Rutherford to deface if you go to Lusaka Girls School, the entire front edge of Lusaka Girls is blocked. And Lusaka Girls is a beautiful property. It's got these beautiful trees. It's got this sprawling piece of land, greenery everywhere. But the school, the face of the school, it has been defaced because of these gigantic billboards that just cover everything. This is what I believe. I believe in advertising, but I don't think that billboards should hide the beauty, the topography of an area. If a place has these beautiful trees, let the trees breathe. Let the people see the trees for what. I don't want to drive down the road, look, and all I see is big, gigantic billboards everywhere. Billboards are fine, but don't put them everywhere. They should not be ubiquitous. Everywhere all the time. No. That's my feeling. So Miles was standing downstairs in front of Simoson building with a lady from G. Rutherford. And so Miles says to me, he says, "Mwewa, we want to put a big billboard here in front of Simoson." So my initial thought was, why would you do that? Because you would block the view of my building. Now, yes, Simoson is ugly, we know that, but still doesn't give the right, it doesn't give anybody the right to block your building, regardless of how ugly it is, okay? Says, no, we just want to put a billboard. And it was huge, it was a massive billboard. Now, at the time, he put me on the spot because it's the mayor asking you for a favor in front of people. And I knew what was going on there. Miles had made a deal with G. Rutherford. You know, G. Rutherford was going to break off something from Miles. And Miles was going to get a deal from Rutherford. I could see what that was, you know, but I didn't want to embarrass him. So I said, you know, Miles, against my better judgment, I said, fine. So he looked at the lady and says, good, you can go ahead and put that thing there. Within 2 hours, a gigantic billboard was erected blocking my building. And I was never happy about it, okay? And so 2 days later, I mean, this is the audacity of Miles Sampa. 2 days later, he calls me again, on the phone this time, on the phone. I said, hey man, what's up? He says, you know what, Mwewa, you know that billboard we've put in front of the building? We have to put another one because we have to put a picture of the boss, meaning Edgar Lungu. I said, Miles, you've already put a huge one in front of my building. You're not going to put another one, man. No, we have to put one, an extra one, so that the boss doesn't feel left out. I said, Miles, no. You've already put one, and that one you've put there is bad enough. I'm not going to sit here and watch you put another one. One is good. I pushed, he pushed back. I insisted. It was only when I insisted that he let down. He said, okay, we'll just stay with the one. Every single day that billboard was in front of my building, I detested it. I was angry. I didn't want that, you know, but he was the mayor, okay? So I said, look, we'll leave it for now. Fast forward to a few months later, and this was when the cracks started to appear in my friendship with him. He was still mayor, and he was touring the back alley of Simoson building and the alleyway in the back. And he was touring the alley with a group of cadres, PF cadres. I was there, okay? I was watching him, you know, walking with them. And these are cadres that I never got along with. You know, they were purveyors. These guys were violent. They were gangsters, basically. And he's walking around with them. And then one of the cadres, his name was Suke. Suke was his name. One of the cadres said to Miles, Mwewa has placed gates in the back alley. He's put gates. And these gates should be removed. So I told Miles, I said, Miles, the reason I've put the gates is because we sought permission from the council to allow us to place these gates so that we control the garbage and the waste that Simoson generates. We pay a private garbage company 10,000 kwacha every month to come and collect the garbage from here. We had a garbage skip bin, a huge big bin in the back alley. So all of the waste that Simoson generated, we would take to the back alley. 2 times a week, The garbage company would come and collect the garbage. Now, what we noticed when we didn't have the gates was that everyone in this area, everyone from City Market, everyone from Lumumba Road, everyone from Kalushawalia Road, everyone from Chivolia would all bring their garbage here because they knew that we paid a private company to collect the garbage. And so, in effect, we were paying for other people's garbage when we should only be paying for the garbage generated by Simoson Building alone, because we are the ones that pay that 10,000 kwacha. We don't go in the street asking people for money to say, can you give us donations so that we pay for the garbage collection? We never did that. We paid that money, and the garbage is our garbage, but then because there's no security, everybody felt like they could bring their garbage here. So we applied to the council. We sought council permission, and we listed the reasons we thought that this would be a good idea to seal the place off for us to secure the waste that is solely generated from Simoson. The council saw our line of logic, and they granted us permission. Miles Sampa, being the mayor, because he wanted to appease and to please cadres, right there, he just made the decision. He says, no, mwewa, remove these gates. I said, well, we have documented permission from the council allowing us to do this. No, just remove them. Just remove them. Just remove them. I said, yeah? He said, yes, just remove. I said, okay, we'll do that. I'll remove them. The very next day, Miles sends bulldozers to demonstrate to his people, I guess, to demonstrate to his people that he was working. He sends bulldozers here to break the gates. I said, Miles, I told you I'd remove them. Yeah, no, it's the council. That is the way we do it at council. We just bulldoze. We just remove. I said, you told me yesterday, I've already assigned people to remove the gates today. The bulldozers came here at 7 o'clock in the morning to come and remove. I said, I've already assigned people to remove the gates. No, we just have to bulldoze. That's when I realized, right. So there is no real friendship here. It's all pretense. See ya. The moment Miles left, the moment he was no longer the mayor, guess what I did? The very first thing I did. I went to council and I said, there's a big gigantic billboard in front of my building. I'd like it removed. You know what the council said to me? Mr. Mayor, how did you allow someone to put a big billboard in front of your building? Said it wasn't me, it was Miles. I said, but it's against the law for a billboard to obstruct any building. You didn't know that? I said, what? I said, yeah. Anyone who tries to put a billboard in front of your building, regardless of who you are, that is against the law. So why did you allow it? I said, well, I didn't know that. No, Mr. Moya, you don't even need permission from us. Just have it removed. I called G. Rutherford. Some lady answered the phone. And I said to her, I said, my name is, I told her who I was. I said, you got this gigantic billboard in front of my building. I said, could you get rid of it, please? She tried to be cocky at first. She tried to say, no, but you have to give us reasons. You have to tell us. I said, hey, listen. It's against the law for you to put a billboard in front of my building. Do you know this? Number one. Number two, we know the type of deal that you went into with Miles. So don't sit there and start acting all cocky and stuff. Get your billboard out of my remove your billboard from the front of my building. If you don't do it, I'll tear it down myself. Wouldn't you know? At 8 o'clock the next morning, she sent people over and they removed the billboard. There's no big ugly billboard blocking my building, my ugly building, because I know that's what you want to hear. Number one. Number two, when Miles left, we reapplied to the council and we said, look, we're not managing our garbage, man. When Miles Sampa was mayor, he came and he just destroyed everything here. Now the back alley is just total bedlam. It's chaos. And what it was, the real reason the Kadas wanted to remove the gates was they wanted to turn that alley into a bus station. So it had nothing to do with nobility or whatever it was. It had everything to do with fulfilling their own selfish desires to turn the alley into a bus station. And I even told Miles that. I said, look, if you're going to remove the gates, this place is just going to turn into a bus station. Alleys are meant to be garbage collection points and service delivery points. That is the function of an alley. But Kadas, all Kadas want bus stations, this, that, and the other. Nonsense. So the council re-granted us permission to secure the back. And we did. And even in this new administration, a few UPND cadres were trying to get the back alley for that same reason of turning it into a bus station. But we stopped them because the local authority told them, no, that's not what an alley is meant for. Some cadres were trying to build shops. They wanted to build shops in the alley for their personal gain. We pushed back against that. We were threatened. It was just... Simoson is a very volatile area. And I feel sorry for the next generation of mwewas that are coming. And let me say this to you. If you're watching this, and this 50 years from now, I'm not here, I'm gone. Whoever is sitting here 50 years from now, don't let them intimidate you. Stand your ground. Don't let them put fear in you. Stand your ground. This is your place. Nobody has the right to intimidate you. Okay? That's to my future great-grandchildren and my nephews and everybody. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, somebody says painted some. Yeah, we've got a plan for that. We've got a plan. Guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Bye.